And so there is no reason for you to think that any man has lived long because he has gray hairs or wrinkles. He has not lived long, he has existed long. For what if you should think that man has had a long voyage who had been caught by a fierce storm as soon as he left harbor, and swept hither and thither by a succession of winds that raged from different quarters, had been driven in a circle around the same course? Not much voyaging did he have, but much tossing about. Seneca. You will reach your line.
Yeah. Do you want to fill up before we start?
I mean, do you want to top off?
I'm okay, but it'd probably be better if you want.
If we need to get up, move around, we can always get up and move around. I'm probably gonna end up stealing your water at some point too.
Why don't you get a water?
Well, I'm already closing now.
That's fair.
Time set up, and I think
it's okay as long as you can reach it. I can hand it over to you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But I'm gonna get it going. I think.
Okay.
I think instead of forgetting to make an introduction,
True.
I don't even know what number this is. I think it's gonna be episode or week 12. I'm doing this, but welcome back, Full Metal family, to another episode of the Full Metal Cast. I did promise that this was going to be a little bit different, as a guest is going to be joining us, a little feminine touch to the channel. Yes, I can't promise real female listeners actually listen to this, but we do talk to females on this channel, and so I think without giving too much of your background, why don't you introduce yourself? And then I'll just throw some more questions at you before we get real deep into some of the topics here.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Brit. I'm a engineer in the neuro rehabilitation field. So I have degrees in mechanical engineering, dabbled in some neuroscience, and then I'm a machine learning and artificial intelligence specialist as well.
Well, you gave away some of your background there, but that's fine.
Is that what you were looking for? I can give a more general intro.
Nope, that's exactly
okay.
That'll do. I think just to get things going, as I've liked to do, as I've seen other people do, some warm-ups. So I throw 4 hot or nots, and then 4 just.
Well, I feel bad on the heavy intro then.
Well, no, it's fine. 4 hot or nots and like 4 open-ended sort of questions to get things going. So first hot or not, gym influencers.
I'm not opposed.
Go on.
Yeah. I think, I'm not opposed. I really fell into the trope of gym influencers back in like 2014 when, fitness YouTube was on the rise. So I'm not opposed. I feel like it has a special place in my heart. Hot or not is in like, do I like it or... Okay, yeah, I think that's my answer. I'm not opposed. It can get a little iffy at times.
Oh. And I generally agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to put something onto the internet, I think gym culture and fitness stuff is probably some of the best stuff you can put out
I agree.
On the internet. I do agree that it is a bit much, though, in a gym.
Yeah. In a gym would be a lot. See, I've always gone to gyms where you're not allowed to record. So I've never had to deal with it actually in a public gym space. Okay. But I like watching people's gym content. So
that's fair.
Like, would I be bothered if someone's filming in the gym? Maybe, but then I like to watch people's gym content. So
I guess it would be a little hypocritical with that. Yeah, just slightly. Next one. Ooh, I'm trying to figure out which order I want to go in here.
Okay.
Who went next?
Backtrack. Have you been in a gym where people have recorded?
I've been to a Crunch Fitness, and you are allowed to do it there.
Have you seen it happen?
I have. It's never gotten in my way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, watching it from the outside is a little strange. It's not normal, but I know what they're doing. And like, again, I think that's a good way of using the internet.
Yeah.
If you're going to make your money, putting your body out there, using your body, your mind, or personality on the internet, I think that's a good way of doing it.
And as long as you're not getting in my way or interrupting someone else, do your thing.
Oh wow, that lines up pretty well with what I believe in. God, I think the next 2 are going to be they're not as crazy controversial layups, I guess. Vaping.
No.
Yeah.
Not here for it.
I know.
Yeah,
Yep. I know.
I know. I have an issue with the dependency on it, I think is the big thing for me.
Glad you said that.
Yeah, that I think is a problem. Yeah, I'm not here for it. That's a big, big not for me.
Yeah, I think the dependency is just a massive turnoff for me as well. Um, I also think there's serious generalizations going on, but those who do it sort of have generalization an air of superiority, as in this is the healthy alternative. I'm not smoking those gross cigarettes,
Right.
but they're not good for you. Like, there's no form of smoking that's like healthy.
Mhm.
So like,
Yeah, and that's how it was marketed in the beginning,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's how everyone who used it, well, again, generalizing here, but everyone I was around who was using it, that was their take on it. Was like, well, I'm not smoking, or I'm not,
oh yeah,
it's the better alternative, and they can't live without it. So, is it really the better alternative?
it is by far one of the most physically unattractive and off-putting things. I think just for me as a guy,
Yeah,
and there are plenty of girls around here, like in our friend group,
correct.
that are just hooked on it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I need to step outside and do this, or I need to step where I need to bring it into the restaurant with me and do it. I'm like, that is alarming.
Yeah. I was on a professional work trip a couple months ago now, and this guy had come on the trip with me. We hadn't met, but we were connected through work, and we were both going to represent different departments. So on this trip together, and a lot of the day we're inside these professional buildings, don't really think anything of it. I don't know him that well. The second we step out of these buildings, I mean, he is grasping for his vape, can hardly function without it. And so at first, I didn't really notice it, or, notice if he had any little quirks or anything. But then going throughout the rest of the trip that we were on, it's kind of paying attention. And I could see him fidgeting and wanting to get outside and reaching for his vape. And it's so, how is it a better alternative to nicotine, or, anything else? But what you were saying too, just about it being physically unappealing, it is. And then seeing that dependency is not a great characteristic.
No, and again, I don't know factually how quickly either of the two damage your lungs or your body or your mouth, but they're both going to do damage, and I don't know.
I know. I don't know the
science behind that.
I don't know the science behind them.
It's better or not, but
Yeah.
that's just me.
But it seems like the vaping is going to have more of a long-term effect, because you can take that with you everywhere,
Yep,
right? And you can
sure.
do it pretty much everywhere. If you try to smoke inside of a restaurant, someone's going to tell you, you can't smoke in here. Are you really going to get up and go outside and smoke? No, you're probably going to be like, oh, whatever, and do it later. You can vape the entire time you're at dinner or a drink.
So that one cigarette per smoke break. So
Yeah, you can constantly be ripping it, and
Yeah.
I think that long term is going to be really interesting to see what that does.
definitely. Well, we can do a whole episode on vaping.
I know.
Dating apps.
I have to say, I've never been on a dating app.
You're a stronger person than I.
I know you have. I know you will have better takes on this. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against them. And if someone says they met on a dating app, I think that's great. I just have never been in a position where I've needed to get on one. That sounds bad. I don't mean it in that way,
No,
being
Go on.
but it's just, no,
Pop
that's not what I mean. I don't mean it like that. I just mean timing wise. It's things have always worked more organically for me. That's what I'm trying to say. Not I've
Go on.
never had to be on one, I think just timing wise, it's never made sense for me to be on them, but I'm not opposed to them. I will say, as a female, I would be more skeptical on them than I think a guy, just, because the risk for you is probably a lot lower. Maybe you go on a bad date, the physical risk is a lot lower. You might go on a bad date, or maybe the person's not exactly what they say they are. But for me, if a guy shows up and he's not who he says he is, that risk to me typically is a bit greater. So I'm not opposed to them. I don't know that I would rush to get on a dating app.
No, that's a very valid perspective, and rightfully so.
But hot for other people. I think I have no issue with people
That
being
was
on
my
them.
stance. Even when I first, really tried them, over a year ago now, the short stint I gave him, I was always like, it doesn't feel like it's for me, but good for other people. And
Wow.
I was like, moved to the new city, didn't really know anybody here yet. I was kind of like, I'll get acclimated. My opinion changed very quickly and said, this is trash for everybody. This isn't the right way for people to meet. I know plenty of people have met, and like, again, good for them. Maybe it's going to work out, but like, I don't think that's the right way for people to really connect. And to my take, I'm a little more opinionated on it.
Yeah, I think I would rather meet someone doing something that I'm already interested in, or
That makes sense.
meeting through friends or something like that. Just something a bit more organic. And not that you can't meet someone on a dating app who doesn't like to do the same things you do, right? Like you might meet and have a bunch of similar interests, and that's why you talk to them in the first place, or just because you think they're attractive. Either's fine. That's probably why you talk to people organically as well, just because you think they're attractive. But I don't know. There's something about that face to face that is just a little bit, it's a different connection than being online.
Definitely. Agreed.
Yeah.
And then last, the hot or nots before the questions. And I needed this because, you know, you are a Linus engineer, Elon Musk.
Okay. Let me preface by saying I probably don't know as much about Elon Musk as the next engineer would, because I don't know. Some of his stuff I don't really buy into. Now, his tech, I have to respect it, and from an engineering standpoint, I think it's incredible. Whether it's Neuralink, SpaceX, Tesla, I mean, the technology behind that is incredible, and I respect that so much. I feel like some of Elon's personal takes on things, not for me.
So those are the things you don't really buy into.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, I think, is a big thing for me. It seems like with Elon, people buy into him entirely, and that means Elon, the person, and his companies, or they don't, right? So it's like Elon said something I don't agree with. I hate his tech. I don't agree with Elon's tech because it's, in line with something I don't like. I don't like Elon, the person. I think it's hard for people to segment him out. And I get why, because his persona is so much of, it's loud, and it's his companies, and it really is. Yeah, he's a lot, and I get it's hard to segment him out. So Elon, the person, I don't have a huge opinion on, if I'm honest, just because I don't pay much attention to him. Elon, in terms of his companies and his tech, I respect it.
It's a very good take, actually. I don't know all of his takes on things. I respect his tech. I respect the work he's done. My opinion about electric cars is that, and obviously Tesla is the big Elon thing. Now it's Twitter, but before it was Tesla, now it's like SpaceX, Twitter, and whatnot. Electric cars, if you want an electric car, great. Nothing wrong with that. I think mandating them is a terrible idea. And so I guess it's really nothing against Elon. I know he's helping with the push and making it, adoptable wide scale. So I guess in that sense, don't love the electric car aspect, but respect all the work he's done basically and pioneering it and making it such a easy to adopt, or I guess easily accept, or easily accessible is the word, for the average person.
I think that's what's cool about it, is it's not something that you can only experience or only be exposed to if you are, really wealthy, or if you have, who's going to interact with SpaceX, right?
Right.
Very few people. And yeah, Tesla, I guess that's the best example. And like you said, it's so accessible, and really, maybe not anyone, but a lot more people can have access to that and see that kind of technology and just be exposed to that. And I do like that aspect of it.
It's cool. And I know it's a lot of hate about what you do with Twitter. I love it. I think if you're just hands off, and again, there's skepticism with how hands off it really is, because there's some Chinese connections there with battery plants and everything, and maybe there's some catering going on to, the Chinese government, but it seems to be more hands off and more actual true free speech than the other platforms. So for that, personally, I like him for that. I like the Twitter thing as well, just objectively on its own, as for that reason too. But I guess for the most part, I'm going to round up and say he's a hot for me.
Yeah, I would say in general, yes.
Makes sense.
Yep.
On to some of the more reviewing questions.
Ooh, okay.
Well, 2 are easy, 3 are easy. Probably not they're all easy.
I like
but
these
they're all
questions,
pretty
they're fun.
casual. What is one thing you like that most people dislike?
Ooh, that's hard. I feel like that's hard to answer about yourself. You know, like I almost need someone else to answer that question about me. You got that?
If you
What's
want
something,
to
okay,
answer the alternative?
what's something that I like that most people don't?
Mm-hmm. What do you feel like you're a rebel in liking?
No, I'm making this sound like I don't like things, which is not true, but that's just so hard.
No, that's fair.
What would your answer be?
It's a good question. I say Little Caesars almost as like the default because people talk hella shit on hot and ready's, but objectively,
pizza.
I think they taste great. Unironically, they taste great. You'd be like, oh, you say like it's like $5. I'm like, that adds to it. That's also excellent, but like, I think it objectively tastes great. That's one. I know Little Caesars is a little polarizing. Another one.
Oh, I have one.
No,
It's first the one that I know you don't like, but Birkenstocks. Birkenstocks are the shoe of the summer.
You don't get to use that.
Yeah, I feel like people.
Everyone loves Birks.
I don't know if that's true.
Everyone loves Birks but me.
All right,
I see people wearing them at the bars now.
but
That's unacceptable.
they're the best. You need one pair of let me give you essential wardrobe here. One pair of Birkenstocks, pair of like cute white sneakers. You need some kind of a chunky black boot, and then heels. I mean, you can do a lot with that.
I have the boots, maybe not chunky.
Mm-hmm.
Got my white Vans.
Yeah,
I'm not.
all you need is a pair of
I
heels,
don't think I'm gonna rock
and
either of those.
probably
Birks or
Birkenstocks.
heels.
Not in your future.
No, I don't even know if to make it my size.
But that captures really all the personalities.
Does it?
No, but we're getting there.
All right, I'll let you get away with Birks there. And
Not a good answer. I will come up with something and come back to it.
maybe this will help
Even if it's
for
at
your
the end of the
memory then.
episode.
What's one thing you dislike that most people like?
I don't have answers to these. I feel like on the spot. I'm
So,
cracking up.
and I'll give you mine if that'll help.
Okay, yeah.
Country music.
Yeah. Country music.
I know that's polarizing too, but for the most part, most people I meet like country music, and I can't stand it. I should like it. The messaging is great. It's just, do you like America or not?
Of course.
Well, yeah.
But no, I'm kidding. Country music is not it for me. There's a difference, I think, between modern country music and then, you know, older country music that teetered on blues and rock and all of that. That I like and that I can respect. Modern country music is just not it for me.
Agreed. You get like Johnny Cash versus like Taylor Swift
Yeah.
or any of the other pop country guys today, and it's nowhere
Where's that to go?
the same. There are some good modern country artists, few and far between. Mr. Stapleton.
Oh, I love Chris Stapleton.
He's one of the rare ones where I'm like,
She's so talented.
it's not so much his country though, it's his blues covers that actually you showed me.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, I fuck with this guy now. He's the real deal. But it's hard to actually, for me personally, to respect the country artist. And I'm not saying they're talentless. That was a bad way of wording it. I just don't like their music. That's all.
I just don't relate to it.
Same.
Yeah. And I'm from the country originally, live in a city now. Like my whole adult life, I've lived in cities. But I grew up until I was probably 20 in the country. And so I should be able to relate to it. Like I'm a prime demographic and I just don't. So I think that's where the disconnect is for me.
Sure.
I thought of some dislikes.
Oh.
Butterflies. I hate this stuff.
That's right.
I hate butterflies. They're disgusting.
Do you want to tell what pivotal moment in your life or what you saw It triggered that.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's been the damn SpongeBob episode.
Yep.
Like, that is so traumatic. But also,
The ultra realistic butterfly and
Yeah.
SpongeBob. Yeah.
did you go to the like zoo or nature houses growing up and
Oh,
they had butterfly houses?
Oh yeah. They're cool.
No, why are we walking through there? And they're just, and they touch you and their wings are
Is it-
flapping everywhere.
Is it the appearance or is it knowing that like they're powdery?
I think it's all of it. And it's knowing that they have those little tentacle feet. They're going to come dodgeball with
Well,
them.
bug feet. It's their tongue that's like coiled.
I know, but it's just the image that I've made of them in my head.
Sure.
I hate them.
I think
I
there's
can't get
something
behind
like the ones that
butterflies.
mimic like the owl eyes. I think
That's
those are
terrified to me. You know what's even worse than a butterfly? It's a big hairy moth.
I'll give it up. I
Like the
like
giant
also
ones,
too.
you know
I
what I'm
like them
talking
too. I
about?
think they're fascinating as well. They're not as pretty objectively, and they are typically fatter too.
It's horrifying. If I saw one of those in the wild or just out living my life,
So
end game. I'm done.
my dad, I was in high school, I think at the time, came home from school one day, and my dad was working out at like an LA Fitness or something, and somehow I don't know if you've seen what a robin moth looks like,
That's what I'm talking about. I hate.
but like
Aren't those the really big ones?
it was massive. It somehow ended up in like LA Fitness, and the people were trying to like swat it down. And my dad, being the nature guy, he's like, no, fuck that. So he ended up like cupping it like in his hands. He put it in his car. He drove home with it. He put it in the house.
Stop.
Yeah, he took it home.
That's the most
But that-
disgusting
it
thing I've
was
ever.
like the size of like your hand. It was
What do you
massive.
do with it?
He's just sat on the window in the house and he let it go at night.
That's horrifying.
But it was the coolest looking thing out. Usually I put like pictures up as I talk about things. I could use like a visual aid. I'll add one
I'm
to
a
the
trigger warning.
part of
Also, this is a real thing, not liking butterflies. It has a name. I mean, everything has a name. Look it up, and I'll give you some stats on it. It's pretty common, or more common than you would think, and it affects women something like 40% more than it affects men. So it's not that.
Lepido. I can't even say this word. There you go. Miss Science.
I'm probably not going to be able to say this either. Lepidopterophobia. It's either butterflies or moths. Some people may have a mild fear. This phobia is when you have an excessive and irrational fear that interferes with your daily life. I would say I teeter on that spectrum. Like when I see one, I go
On the spectrum, man,
on the Spectrum podcast.
basically.
Yeah. I don't know what to do.
So it wasn't like the reaction to the beetle
It's worse than the reaction to
when
the
you
beetle.
almost like broke your leg.
I now have a bruised ankle because I saw this beetle crawling up me and I freaked out and there was a table beside me. And the reaction to a butterfly honestly would be worse. Now, on the same lines, because this is something that is typically pretty innocent, but I hate it, actually terrified of it, is the sound that the ice cream truck makes. That song,
Okay.
hearing that song come up the road growing up inside immediately. I would go inside and hide until he went away. That sound is so creepy.
Do you know what song it was? Was it like an actual like distinct song the ice cream truck played, or was it like a sort of like a nursery rhyme that would play?
It was more of those nursery rhyme, like just the bell.
But was it like a particular one, or was it like distinct?
I
just
don't know
to
if
the
I
truck?
heard it.
So it was like a specific one that only the ice cream truck played. You hadn't heard it before.
I think it's any ice cream truck song. Like they're pretty.
I
You
know
know
what you're
an
talking
ice cream
about.
truck song when you hear it.
Yeah, but some do play just like nursery rhymes though. And then like the key of like, like
No, I'm using like
yeah.
weird little jingly ones.
But from a distance where like the sound travels a
But
little
it's
funny,
always
and it's
like
like
a
off-key.
1918 war horn taped to the side of an ice cream truck, blaring out of the one broken speaker. It sounds.
Oh,
It's a
fuck.
party ride.
It's sort of like when the ambulance is going away, like the sound waves.
Yeah, it's
travel
like a Doppler
differently.
effect.
So like, yeah, the sound from the ice cream truck, when it's far enough away and it's almost echoing through the neighborhood, it comes across a little flat and it's got that sort of like funeral dirge to it.
Yes,
too.
it is.
I
That's
feel you.
exactly it. All the neighborhood kids are running out to get ice cream, and I'm crying in my
Stupid
mom's
fucking
arms.
time.
I'm literally like, Mom, you
Don't
want to
let
get
me
those
take
kids
you.
back. Yeah. No, there are so many stories of me running and hiding from the ice cream truck.
That's really good.
My last one and I think this will not be a hot take. I think many people don't like these. And now I love roller coasters. Hate Ferris wheels.
I know. I've heard that before. I don't mind them.
Hate them.
The most exciting thing, I'm not going to wait in the line, but I'm also not going to be like, well, I wish I was dead right now once I'm on it.
I cannot agree. I can respect that opinion for you. I want to die when I'm on a Ferris wheel. Yeah. There's just something about the fear of, I think it's the fear of falling, maybe. And on a roller coaster, you almost don't have time to think about that. On a Ferris wheel, you are just.
Well, did you see that it was on the news? I don't even know which theme park it was at. I don't think it was Cedar Point, but it wasn't like a pop-up like fair. It was like an established theme park. And this dad essentially was like watching the roller coaster that his daughter was in line for. And it was one where like it was a sharp like bank almost, where like you're kind of not upside down, but you hit this bank really sharp on an angle. And where the track curves, there's like a metal beam that shot up almost like a diagonal angle to like meet the curve of the track to support it. And as like the car, as he was filming it, he saw this happen before, so he pulled out his phone for the next time as she sent someone to like call with like parts, like shut it down. But as like the car came up and passed the curve, you saw that like whatever weld was holding the support to the actual track was off, and you saw actual separation from like the support beam and the track in this curve. Like you clearly see the line of day through,
terrifying.
And then it went back after it was nothing holding it. So it made it on the news. It was.
Are they okay?
Yeah, they stopped before anything fell. But it's one of those things where it's like everyone trusts that they're being inspected and they're good, but
there's always that fear when you're going like up a hill on a roller coaster, like around a corner on something like that, and you're like, please don't break. Just let me get down the first. If I get down that first hill, I'm fine. It's not going to break after that.
Am I going to be on the ocean gate of America's roller coaster?
Yeah, you probably are. And you know what? Just like them, we put ourselves on it. So
really trust it's going to be okay.
I want some good memes made after me if I'm dying on a roller coaster.
I hope the internet picks up my death as quickly as that sub was lost when everyone was like, light them up. I thought that was...
Listen, I understand.
I don't think we came together as Americans as quickly. 9/11, I think, was the last time we came together as Americans as quickly as that.
Nothing has united us since then, quite like Ocean Gate.
Unbelievable. And the last one I have here is... Oh, no, I have two more, actually.
Okay.
What is your favorite song currently? So this would be of all time. What's like a song you recently came across? You were like, repeat.
I wish I had my phone so I could go into Spotify.
Do you want to look up your Spotify?
Yeah.
Here you go.
We have a few in mind. I just want to see what one's really gonna.
And for that, I'm gonna try thinking of some of mine at the moment.
Well, it shouldn't really be this hard for me to think of these answers on the spot.
And you know that I've been a big house head lately.
You have been.
A dirty pleasure, if you will, departure from the usual psychotic rock and rap.
That's good though. You need that.
Yeah.
Nice little breakup.
Suicide Boys has been another dirty pleasure. Something I have not listened to usually that I've recently been all over.
I've been really back into Brockhampton lately. His Saturation, I think maybe it's the original Saturation album and Saturation 2 are so good. Yeah, I'll say Zipper by Brockhampton. I've been listening to that a lot.
I'm not familiar, but I'll have to pull it up and play a sample.
I think you'd like him. I don't know that would really be my answer. That might be a cop-out because you just made me think of that. But
mine? Oh, God. Not like anyone asked, but...
Yeah, these questions are getting asked back to you.
New, like, late, current favorite song. That's tough.
I know.
It's not even a new song, but I came across it in, like, a reel on Instagram. I believe it's called Now I'm Up to My Neck in Offers by Suicide Boys.
Oh.
It's just one of those hardcore rap things. And again, never have been a typical Suicide Boy listener, but it's just one of those things where you see it to a video of dudes shooting at trash or just wearing full kit running around. You're like,
yeah, this is it.
This is what I want to be when I grow up. Yeah. And then the last question, last warm up.
These were good questions. The
Thank you.
dud answers are on me.
This is what I do when I'm bored in my 9 to 5. If you had to be a fictional character, who and why?
I'll just say the first thing that came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, I have a question for you as well, because it kind of goes hand in hand. This was my fictional crush growing up, so I also want to know who your animated fictional character crush growing up was. Danny Phantom.
You know what? That's a very relevant to the meme landscape because of, this may just be because of like the things I repost and like on, the Instagram account, but it was me trying to figure out like why my taste of women is the way it is, and it shows all like the Nickelodeon and cartoons that look like goth chicks.
Yeah.
The cartoon characters.
And Danny Phantom, he was really the only goth boy, I feel like.
He was normie though until he.
Wow, but when he was that theme song, I could sing it for you right now.
Like,
that's my current favorite song.
Growing up, Timmy Turner to like Hot Topic.
Yeah, when he goes through that gate and he becomes Ghost Danny Phantom. So that's also who I would want to be because that's so cool.
It's good power.
Yeah, it's a sick power.
Who's mine? That's tough.
So who's in Kim Possible, who's the girl she's always fighting?
Chico?
Yeah, I feel like that would be
that was pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wasn't oddly enough for the goth girl obsession. Not it for me.
Okay.
I was raised on classics though. So like my dad plugged me into like old school like Pokemon. Like when I was growing up, watched that every Sunday. Also was introduced to like other like animes too, like around the 90s when I was growing up. I mean, real question, that's tough. It probably would have to be Sailor Moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Watched a lot of that as a kid. My cousin watched that as well. It's probably mine.
That's fair.
Danny Phantom, that's a good shout.
Mm-hmm.
Good shout.
Who would you be as a fictional character though?
Who would I be? Oh, Jesus. Like animated or just?
Well, I guess I went animated, but any fictional character.
Okay, I think I'll start animated. Wait, was Danny Phantom your crush? Oh, yeah, you said crush Ian who you'd want to be. Okay, that's brutal.
I know.
Animated, I may have to circle back on, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
because I haven't seen anything animated in so long. Just I don't have a TV here.
Okay. For the record, I'm not actively watching Danny Phantom as a.
No, I didn't think you were. Overall fictional character.
Mm-hmm.
I think the mad fantasy is John Wick.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he's like that, or like any Ryan Gosling personality. Like he's literally me. Like that's no. I pick John Wick first though. Animated.
I thought you were gonna say something else.
What do you think I was gonna say?
Tom Shelby.
Thomas Shelby, that is good actually.
Right? Fuck. If I had to go that route,
Thomas Shelby's a beast.
Would love to be Ada Shelby. First of all,
Ada's a boss ass bitch too. Yeah.
Incredible name from that time period.
It's great.
And I love her story, and she's just so badass.
Yeah, Thomas Shelby, he's in the top 3 for sure, I think.
Mm-hmm.
John Wick, though. I mean,
yeah,
no one's cool with Keanu Reeves. Well, Cillian Murphy's fucking sweet too. But I like John Wick first. I think that's my
you gotta go with your best answer.
And animated, so tough. Yeah, I did watch animes though. I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna leave something else. I feel like if I answer, I'm gonna it's gonna come to me after this. It's gonna be like you.
Oh, I know. The question about like favorite song and like what do you like that other people don't. It's gonna come to me in an hour, and I'm gonna be so mad.
Okay. Answer right now, so at the top of my head is probably gonna be Kakashi from Naruto. I don't know if you've watched that.
Mm-mm.
but I think he's by far the coolest character in the whole series. Like, I haven't watched that. I didn't even finish it because it was like, I don't know how many seasons, how many episodes. But as a kid, I was like, that dude fucks. That's a cool character. I like him a lot.
I like it.
That would be my answer there.
All right.
But anyways, I know you gave away a little bit of your background in your introduction, and I think that'll actually help me out a little bit here because everyone's talking about AI now. And Rogan actually 2 or 3 guests ago had on a gentleman, I forget his name, who they just talked about AI. He provided his thoughts, his opinion on it. And so obviously it's a very hot button topic. Everyone in Silicon Valley is racing to try to create the best AI, do the best thing, the best way. I have opinions on it. I won't voice all of them here. I voiced them a little bit in a prior episode regarding censorship and bias. But given that you have experience with it, you've actually used it and are more familiar with it than the average person beyond just using ChatGPT to cheat out homework tests or to create images for fun. I wanted to just sort of get what is your experience with it as much as you're comfortable sharing, and what's your general feeling about it?
Yeah. So, well, to the point that you just made there is there's just so much being talked about with AI. A lot of it is misinformation. A lot of it's accurate, right? And I think being in the space, that is something that's hard, is you see the value in it, you want to use it. Of course, you see the downfalls of it and the negative impacts that it can have. But so much of what you spend your time doing almost is demystifying AI. And that's not to say that, like, well, first of all, I have specializations in machine learning and AI, and I do work in it, but by no means am I like the end all be all expert. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's just my experience and opinion with it. But yeah, I think that is something that is hard. It's that almost demystifying of it and trying to help people see how it's used in daily life and the benefits of it. So I also have mixed opinions on it as someone who works in AI. I think there are tremendous benefits, and I kind of touched on it earlier. I'm more on the like human behavioral control side of things, and that's more for rehabilitation efforts and a lot of neuroscience and cognition and how does the brain control the body, how does the body control the brain, and that in essence is a lot of what AI is. AI is taking some kind of input and using it to predict an output. And a lot of AI mimics the brain. So there are 7 branches to AI, kind of ranges from everything from computer vision to robotics, some of the more healthcare oriented stuff. And then the big hot topics that most people know and that I would say are most talked about are the machine learning, neural networks, and natural language processing. So the neural networks are what are really designed to mimic the human brain. And I think that's sometimes where people can get a little, hesitant about it. It's like, okay, are we creating these sentience is a word that's used a lot, and especially now with natural language processors. So those are ChatGPT, which is the one that's operated by OpenAI. You have Palm, which is operated by Google. Yeah, Palm is Google's. So those are natural language processors. So that comes up a lot, is that idea of being sentient, but we can touch on that maybe a little later. So kind of going back to that idea that AI at its core is using inputs to update information, store new information, predict new outputs. That's really what our brain is doing constantly. So these neural networks, they're named that way because they're designed to be like the networks of your brain. So you're constantly taking in new information. We're always doing what we call training these networks and these architectures. So getting information from whatever, you're trying to achieve, you will train a neural network with that. And it's the same as like if I want to learn a new skill, right? I'm going to repeatedly expose myself to it. My brain's going to learn these new motion patterns how to perform this movement. It's going to store it. And eventually I'm going to do it autonomously. I'm not even going to think about what I'm doing. And the goal is that I could be given a similar task that's maybe different and it's something I haven't been exposed to before, and I can perform it perfectly. That, I would say, is really the goal of AI. It's trying to replicate these natural processes that we as humans have to make life more, easy to navigate in this world where everything is big data, right? We can't get around it. Everything's big data. Everything is so large scale. We live in a world where we want things and we want it now. So computers and languages and marketing and all that has to be able to keep up with it. And the natural person just cannot operate that quickly. So that's where, these things are becoming more prevalent in the civilian sector.
Do you think that a lot of the fear, and so I
Mhm.
don't want to get into my own personal sort of thoughts on it, like where I think a lot of the fear comes from, but like you said, everything's big data right now, everything's big
Mhm.
tech. Do you think some of the reputation, the negative reputation behind big tech, big data, plays a big factor in people's sort of fear in it?
Definitely, right? So we already have a distrust,
Mhm.
and probably rightfully so, of big tech, big pharma, things like that. So when they start incorporating AI or these other big generators that we don't really understand, of course, that fear is going to be tied into it. And this is a criticism that even someone working in AI, I can say, is there's just not enough transparency as to what goes behind AI. And I don't mean that to sound in like a nefarious way, but if I use Chat GPT as an example, because people are really familiar with Chat GPT and other, language processors. Um, I just completely lost it.
No, you're fine. So transparency.
Yeah, transparency. Sorry. So how Chat GPT has been trained, we call it. So how it's learning this information and it's going to generate these outputs. That's not open information, and it should be. And um, I think Meta recently put out their full open. I mean, you can go to GitHub. I think it's OTP 175B is the name of it. OTP, I don't remember exactly what it stands for. It's something for transformer processing. 175B is because it was trained on 175 billion inputs, I believe. So just to give some context there, ChatGPT, the most recent version, I think was trained on 500 billion, they call them tokens, so words, of inputs. And Palm, that one that Google has, I think it's like 780 billion tokens. So that's what I'm saying. Everything is it's massive data sets, right? And that's where AI has to start coming into play. That was a bit of a sidetrack. But so how something like ChatGPT is set up, it's not really open source information. So if you can't see that, of course you're going to have distrust in it. And where is it getting this information from? How is it learning this information? What's it being fed, right? I haven't played around with it myself, but I've seen the GitHub where the Meta one is public, and the code is there. I mean, we could go in right now and run it and train it on the data sets, public data sets that they used. Yeah, truly. Man behind the camera. Yeah, like anyone could go in and run it. And I think that's great because you need that transparency there to be able to see where is this coming from. And it's not something that really needs to be hidden. I get it from a competitor standpoint. You want to keep that hidden. To the public or to peers, there's really no, in my opinion, no reason to keep it hidden.
I think there is a whole like space race, Cold War aspect where everyone wants to put out the best one to get the most funding, to get the most popular, most used, integrate with everything. I get that aspect to it. The other aspect to it is I think it's gonna start, and I think we're gonna be coming down to it pretty quickly, like we had with the whole like cookies and ads thing. You see all these personalized ads for things you're like, how the hell did it know to serve this up? We're already starting to see it where like artists are starting to sue like the AI companies because they're like, this very clear is ripping off of my like written published work. And they're winning. And I think people are in this needs to, sort of wake up call, like, my data is worth something,
Mhm.
but I've been paid nothing for it for these billion-dollar companies to continue to profit off of it.
Yeah.
And I think at least artists are figuring that out now as the AIs are now pulling from their works. But I think there's going to be a little bit of that too. And so I don't know, that's probably a very minute aspect of it.
No,
I think it's something nonetheless. I think it's like, you probably don't want to show just how much you have,
yes.
because then you end up with like the whole TikTok propaganda.
Mhm.
Do I think the app is extremely invasive? Yes. I think maybe just marginally more so than the American
Mhm.
apps you have. And that's really more so the government here
Yeah.
freaking out, going, oh shit, the Chinese have a better spyware if we have cut. And so I think there's a little bit of that going into.
Yeah.
But I think most of it is just competitive nature.
I really think that it is being competitive because at the end of the day, the neural network architecture that those are based off of, they're really well known. So anyone could go in and attempt to build their own version of Chat GPT. Obviously, there are benefits if you're OpenAI or you're Google and you have all the money and resources to do so, but the fundamental nature behind it, it's not like some hidden, unobtainable concept. It's something that you learn if you are a data scientist. And so anyone can try their hand at it, right? So that part of it, it's really not, it doesn't need to be proprietary.
And I think that's something that's important. And I don't think that it's being kept from people for this reason, but part of the reason, and I guess we're going to get into why I don't love it, is not necessarily the thing itself, it's the context, in just the whole context of it, really. People are already starting to look to this thing as, oh, it's AI, it's a machine, it's free from fault, and its word is absolute law. And I think if the veil was sort of lifted and made easy to understand and broken down in a way, this is how it works. It's not this God, essentially, that it's sort of being made out to be, and it shouldn't be thought of as that. I think that would make me feel a little bit better about it. But I think we, again, like you said, everybody wants things now, instantly.
Yeah.
I think that being the shortcut, it just gives you an answer to something. You're like, oh, fuck, that's it. It came from the machine. It knows best. That's what freaks me out. But I think if people, again, were able to see what's going on underneath the hood and able to understand it as something that's not this, I don't know.
Well, okay, actually, I would love to touch on that because we have a name for it. It's called data contamination.
Okay.
Um,
But before you go on, sorry, are these lights bothering you?
No, they're okay.
Okay.
Is it bothering you?
No, they're
I know
bright.
we're getting a little strobe light in here.
I know.
It's good.
I know.
It's a vibe.
It's the first time I've done this in here, so I don't want to like make you motion sickness with these.
No, I think it's good. And also, when I start to get on a rant here, if I go like way more technical than we need to,
Let's rant. Pass me the line.
You can cut me off.
I do this, yeah. Like,
all right, so I'll get to the data contamination, but I would say my 3 or 4 biggest, not even issues, it's just things I think we should be more aware of. First is the transparency. Second is data contamination, and this isn't really a bad thing. Like I'll explain it, but it's something that naturally is going to happen. But to your point, if people are made more aware of this, they wouldn't take these AI, generators to be all truth and to be Bible. And that's probably my third issue is that in the wrong hands, of course, this is dangerous. And someone who's not going to put in that extra thought and, question, is what I'm being given true? Is it factual? Is this something I can go find my own resources for and confirm this information? That's where I think this stuff gets dangerous. You have to be smart using AI. And a lot of what I'm referring to now is we're pretty much exclusively talking about like ChatGPT at this point, like these language generators. You have to be smart using that kind of stuff and just go into it knowing this is not always going to be accurate. So even in the medical side of things, like I think it's a great resource if someone has questions, right? Or maybe there's something they didn't ask their doctor and they don't necessarily know where to start. So they search a term in ChatGPT or say, where can I find resources on this into ChatGPT? And then they get all this information. That's great. I think use it as like a starting point, resource tool. But you have to be so careful taking those things as just, the end all be all truth. And then my last thing to be aware of is we kind of talked about this a little bit, is that idea of sentience. And that's because we give AI, we give it human names, and there's a reason for that. And it's to make it more appealing to the public and to make it more obtainable and to not seem like this crazy, wild, outlandish thing that it really doesn't need to be. But on that same token, you are now using words like this computer can learn, this robot can think. You're putting those human words to it when in reality, in my opinion, no, necessarily it can't. That was the whole thing with the Google article that came out like a year ago, was it? When it was like this, robots a lot. It's not. I have opinions on that. I'm getting so off topic. I'm sorry.
It's good. So you mentioned that, these are the things you need to be aware of with like these language processing models. What about the other types? Is there other sort of like pitfalls?
Yeah, definitely. There definitely are. And I can probably speak more towards machine learning just because that's what I use the most. But those same types of faults are there as well, because again, it's that idea of like we're using these data sets, right, to predict things, or we might be using data sets we have to improve performance models. And we can relate it to, more general things like the stock market, where all of that prediction it's AI, it's machine learning. Yeah, and those have their own pitfalls as well. Some of the other branches, one is called expert systems. So this is used a lot in cancer detection, like early screening, cancer detection. There have been many times when that has been wrong, either in a good way, right, where maybe someone's diagnosed in best case scenario, they don't have cancer, or incorrectly diagnosed as clear and where they do have cancer. Yeah, so that, in the medical side, there are definitely downfalls. Then you get into the whole realm of computer vision and, image recognition. And I know that's another entire hot topic in itself, but you can have bias in that for sure, whether it's racial bias, ethnic bias, just faulty detection. So yeah, there's room for downfalls in all of it. And I'm realizing now I'm making this sound really negative. Like, if it's done well, it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
You just have to be aware. And when I say you, I mean really us that are like creating these AI models. You just have to be aware of the data that you're using and how you're coming up with these systems. So when I was talking about data contamination, what that really means is, again, going back to ChatGPT, just as an easy example. So ChatGPT and all those other language processors, they've been given billions of text to learn how to process, learn how to put words together, to go through association of words and what do these two mean if they're together? What do these, what does this sentence mean if it's tied in this context? So much training. And so that's what it's called. It's called training your data. Then you have something which is a test, which would be like you or I going in, giving ChatGPT a new prompt that it hasn't seen, and it ideally should be able to give us the perfect answer, right? I could say, why did these lights just change color? And it would, give me the perfect answer. It's not always that easy. And when we were talking numbers earlier, we were saying sometimes 780 billion words are being used in these models. It's almost impossible that ChatGPT or, whatever it is, it's going to be given something completely new that it hasn't seen before. So you have this embedded bias in all of these things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means you have to ask yourself the question, is it solving for this because it knew the answer, because the model is really well set up and it's been trained really well, or because it's already learned how to answer that question? And that's where, if you have more transparency, and I don't want to make it sound like that's always the case, because it's not. These things work for a reason. They work really well, and whether it's in autonomous robots. I mean, that's a field where it works really well because it has to. Like if we want to think surgical robots or military robots, those are fields where your room for error is minuscule. So they have to work extremely well. And I'm not saying that same care isn't given to these other, systems, but it's just always asking that question of, is this the correct answer? Is this the truth? Or is this an answer that was learned?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's my take on data contamination. It's not that scary. I just think going into it knowing like I should also have my own opinion and not just take and I mean, anyone listening to the show, you're going to have your own opinions. I feel like that's, you create that atmosphere and people who are listening, I'm sure they're like-minded in that sense. And, you're good about having that critical thinking and you don't just read something and say, okay, face value, this is what it is. But I think that's where part of the fear is coming from for the general public, because it's a weird thing to understand, like how AI is now going to fit into our daily lives. And I think that fear doesn't necessarily help things.
I think my fear is a little bit, I'm going to say 3-pronged.
Mm-hmm.
That number may change here in a minute as I explain my stances here, but one of the things that I've come to find to be a little more true as, I read things, as I kind of experience things, as I think about things is, and it's in one of my favorite books, The Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century, written by Brit and his wife, Heather Hang, two evolutionary biologists, very smart people. Their sort of stance is, we've evolved too quickly recently, and our bodies and our minds just don't know how to keep up or how to process. And a couple of episodes ago, I read some excerpts from Unibott's manifesto, actually, where his thing was very similar, almost in the sense that the Industrial Revolution ended up creating a lot of suffering for us mentally and physically, and that all the problems we have now were problems that primitive man had, or man as he was evolving had to suffer. And I agree with it, at least that part. And I think of AI and how AI is being used almost in some of the thing of farming. I just saw a video of how AI is being used on the back of his tractor, basically with a laser on it, to kill weeds with a 99% efficiency, yielding a higher, crop, whatever, for the farm. And at surface, that sounds good, especially now a lot of the food things going on. But long term, does that create too much food? Does that allow us to have, too many people in an area that's unable to sustain that many people? Again, the solution is creating more problems. Essentially, we have no way of really seeing, the long-term effect of that, which is something that they call the sucker's folly, which is where we really hyper focus on the positives, the upside. We don't consider, the downstream negative effects, which are just as important, if not more important, I think, even when rolling things out. So I do also see the benefit of it, in the medical field and helping people, especially if it comes down to, diagnosing things more accurately, removing things from people, treating people more accurately, giving people, the ease of life and the accessibility that they would have because of a disability. I think that is really cool. And I do like that. And I think it'd be inhuman and almost immoral for us to deprive that of people if we have the means to do so. Again, devil's advocate, this is going to sound awful. I'm not asking this as a question, just a hypothetical. There's going to be a downside to that. There's just always, there's never going to be trade-offs, essentially, in life. What is that? And I guess, is it proportionally worth it when also considering the upside? And that's how I go about it mostly. And I don't think we have the ability as people to pick and choose which use case provides enough upside to offset or surpass the downside. And this could be next year, 50 years, 100 years out, as we won't know.
Right. And I'm, the examples I'm giving, I'm very much listing the positive ones, right? And ones that I've interacted with.
Because I'm only going to list negative ones. Because I don't know.
Because there are, and you should, right? Because there are things where we just, how far is too far. And as someone who's in science and engineering, whatever, I like research and I like
Your goal is to push.
like you want to push it, but my goal isn't to push it to the point where we're creating something that's unrecognizable
You're not
or
and I wrote it down here, but you're not like the guy from Google. I forget his name now because he and Musk went back and forth on this. I don't know if it was on a panel. I don't even know what forum it was in, but he was going on the lines of saying like it would be almost like an honor for it to replace humans, essentially. When
I remember this interview, yeah.
Be like, basically, he saw us as passing on the torch, and that would be an honor. That'd be a huge achievement to basically give up humanity to the machines. And everyone's like, you're fucked for that.
Yeah.
Called him like a specious or something.
Wow.
I was like, that's just, I can't believe we're having this conversation. It's just so strange.
Yeah, I remember that interview. I can't remember who that was with though. But
I have
he
this.
made a
Let me pull
good
up his-
point. Well, it kind of is
Let me-
almost on two. Oh yeah. It's kind of on two levels when you're talking about that farming example, right? And how much is too much. From an AI standpoint, all of these things are created with all the cost functions. So your cost functions and also just, I guess, a more general way of looking at it, these models are all built to be penalized for giving the wrong answer or for doing too much of something or for not doing enough of something. And all of that is continuously getting fed back into the model. And the goal is that it's going to become more and more accurate over time. So some of those things of like, what if it just goes off and does its thing for, however amount of time, what's that going to look like? Some of that stuff is attempted to be like encompassed for it in the models. But then you made another good point on a human level. You can ask that same question is, what do you prioritize using this on? What sectors do you decide we can push it in this area, but we can't push it in this one? And that's the terrifying part, is that really comes down to who has the money and who wants to invest in what areas of AI.
And to also, like, you mentioned the cost, so the function and the program, it, for lack of a better term, I forget what word you used, being penalized for providing a wrong answer.
Yes.
Who gets to determine what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah.
And in the context of, people just seeing this thing as this all-knowing, omnipotent sort of being, if it's somebody you already know big tech is a certain way, they censor a lot of things in a certain way, more so than others. If they're deciding what's truth and what's not, I mean, I already know people are going to eat it like it's, absolute truth. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah. I agree with you there. This is where I'll try to do a little bit of demystify.
This is really only more so in the context of, like, again, I only see people freaking out at the language models. That's what gets all the attention. That's what gets all the headline.
I know.
That's like the, oh my gosh, look at the censorship, look at the bias, look at the racism being deployed by ChatGPT and all this stuff through all of its renditions. And I realize that it's being used in other ways. That's just the one way I think people are able to really
It's the most accessible.
identify with, because it's literally a back and forth, it's a talking thing. It's different than like getting a feed on like your social media or from the news, essentially. So when you see this like spitting things out and like saying, what something that's just completely off the wall, not true, but it lines up with a lot of the other censorship you see online, I kind of like, oh shit, like we're about to start bowing down of this thing, and it's not completely objective.
Right. Okay, I'm going to go into
Go for it, yeah.
two
Do
directions.
whatever
here.
you guys do.
So one kind of goes back to what you were talking about a little bit ago, is who decides what's right and who decides what's wrong. And it's a great point to make. A lot of times these models, when you're building in what's right, what's wrong, what are you going to reward it for, what are you going to punish it for, those answers are typically a bit more black and white. So I'm trying to think of just like really general. Okay, like earlier we were clicking. Okay, so let's say that's all happening in some automated kitchen, and there's a robot that's doing the cooking, or there's a robot that's doing that automated surgery, whichever route we want to look at it. there are going to be tolerances built within that where you have to produce a pizza crust that's so sick, and it has to have this is gonna read this, but it has to have like so many, the toppings, whatever. And that can be detected by your robot or whatever system, you're using.
Sure.
And those will come back as objective, yes, no, it met this criteria. Then you have user, that human language or human interface part of it, where that human feedback also ties into it and says, okay, the person was satisfied with this. That's a reward. The person was dissatisfied with this. It wasn't a reward. And then it's going to go back and it's going to look at, okay, were those threshold criteria met? Like, did I produce the product I was supposed to produce and the person still didn't like it? And those give you rewards and penalties in different ways inside of the system. So it's always updating based on those more like binary targets, and then also what it's being given back by the person. And then the last point that you were talking about, seeing something just having the ability to take over, kind of going back to that, I think it was Washington Post. It did an interview with this guy like a year ago, Brian. I'm going to mess up his last name, so I'm not going to try to say it, but he was going over to Google and basically came out. And the headline of this is what makes me mad, right? Because we already know that there's fear around AI. And then we're publishing articles where the headline is this like language model is sentient. And that's apparently his famous tagline email that he sent into Google before he was, essentially like pushed out, whatever. My issue with that is just, one, you're creating more fear and you're creating more propaganda. And people will have their own opinions on this. This is just mine. These artificial intelligent networks, and if we want to talk language processing specifically, they don't have the ability to become sentient in the way that you or I are sentient. It absolutely seems that way to the public and in the media because, kind of what I was saying earlier, we give these models human sentient association. So we say that they can think, they can learn, they can feel. It's not really what we mean, but I'm not going to sit here and want to talk like technically, we do it with everything. We give it these more digestible phrases, and that's what we do in AI as well. And that's great because it makes it more understandable, it makes it more accessible. But with that comes an inherent fear because now you're saying that this robot can think and feel and do all these things for itself. It can't. I mean, yes, it can, in the sense of like you've trained it to produce outputs. Yeah, but it doesn't have the ability to feel physical things and to have experiences in the environment. We're trying to put that in this bot, in the ChatGPT bots, but it's a language process. Like that name is intentional. It's a language processor. It's a text processor. It's not a feeling processor. It's not an experience processor. It's not an emotion processor. Yes, it can be trained and told all these things. And here are these thousands and thousands of scenarios. In this one case, right? Like this person stubbed their toe. Here are 1,000 ways that people responded to it. And you're going to have all these different predictions of what someone might feel. But it doesn't have that ability to form that true human response, I would say. So that's where I get sometimes a little, more than a little, that's where I get frustrated when I see like big news pushing out things like, oh, it's sentient or it's alive, whatever. It's just that is so propaganda and fear driven. And I get it. It's news. They want to sell a profit, whatever. And, even in that article, I would like to think that it's heavily edited and that this guy didn't say some of the things that he said in there because he's feeding right into it. But yeah, I think that's my biggest gripe with it is yes, they're extremely intelligent systems and they need to be if we're going to put them in places where they are replacing humans. They need to be able to work extremely well and to think like a human would think. But in the sense of it's going to take over, we're going to lose some of like our own capability to function in society. I just don't, and maybe this is naive, but I don't necessarily see that happening.
Sure. And so I think I have two things here. The first one is, would you think maybe instead of calling it artificial intelligence or AI, and I get why it's very short and easy to like remember and understand, would you think an easier way to describe it would be like almost like a more robust, intimate like search engine as far as like the language sort of interfaces go? Because essentially, from what I understand the way you order is that it works the same way, where it has however many hundreds of billions of inputs. You ask it something, you tell it to do something, its job is to rack its brain through all those inputs based on the context of what you ask it to give you something that you're satisfied with. That to me sounds like a more robust, intimate search engine.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can do more than just give you the answers. You can do things for you.
Right.
But I think of it more as like, I think that's, I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, no, I would say that is, to me, that's what I view. I don't like ChatGPT. This has probably come across at this point. I don't like it because I'm in both the private and the academic sectors. I don't like it in an academic sector because, if we're going to tie vaping back into this, if people are so dependent on it, like there's no, well, I don't want to say that there's no, but the ability to think critically is going away. And ChatGPT, in my opinion, should help with that.
Even without it, who was the Ivy League guy who stepped down because they found a bunch of, it wasn't fraud,
I can't think of his name.
But it was some not so great procedures in a lot of his published works. I forgot which college it was too.
Yeah, I think that wasn't the guy out of, that happened recently. Stanford. I want to say Stanford.
I think it was Stanford.
Yeah,
I'll find out the picture of it. But
and kind of like what I was saying earlier with Elon Musk, is I have to respect the science behind that. I feel that same way with ChatGPT. So I know I literally just said I don't like ChatGPT. I don't like it in the sense that people are dependent on it and using it as a cop-out for things. The actual science and the, neural network, whatever behind it, incredible. I think it's a really remarkable tool if used wisely, both on the user end and on the development end. I think it's a really incredible thing. I don't like it in the sense of it being a cop-out and something that we treat as like the know-all. So what you said about it's more of a robust, intimate search engine, in my opinion, that's a more accurate way to describe it.
I'm not completely off. The second thing I had, though, is what about it taking jobs?
I, again, don't agree with this.
Maybe not, like a lawyer or something, but like the minimum wage, like drive-through cashier stuff, like.
I don't know. I don't, again, really see this happening. And maybe it will. Maybe I
think it already is, though.
It's happening in certain places, and you'll go into, restaurants and more fast food stuff, I think, and a lot of them will have, like, you order yourself, and there's fewer interface.
It ends up being more efficient, too, because it's learned how to upsell, or it hasn't learned, but it's able to upsell more consistently and has a higher success rate of upsells on items as well. Like Taco Bell, I think I heard, or maybe it was some other fast food place, because on the drive-through, they replaced an actual worker with like an actual AI, if you will.
Which upselling you Taco Bell breakfast country.
I've already evangelized how good it is here. They don't need to upsell me.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, right? Like in things like that, sure. I don't see it coming in and fully replacing, like I talked about medical robots and surgical robots a couple of times. I don't see us ever getting to a point where we no longer have surgeons because robots are taking over. Sure, and something that is more, I'll say, plug and play, could it take over in that sense? Yeah, it's been doing it for decades and decades and decades. Look in any factory, look in anything that has to do with an automated system, any car manufacturer, factory, gun manufacturing plant, anything that uses automated machining, that is an example of AI actually out in the workforce, and it's been there for decades. And I don't know of anyone saying that they feel like their field has really been displaced in that realm because of those machines. I think what it does is it opens up the space for people to be like more valuable in other senses, right? Like if you don't have to have a person standing on an assembly line measuring with a ruler the thickness of something, let a machine do that and let a person do something that's more valuable, that needs more of that human, actual sentient, connection tied to it. So I don't know, yes and no, I guess. Like I think it will start taking the place of certain jobs, but I think it will take the place of jobs where it's appropriate.
I think that's the balance.
Yeah.
I think it is deployment and understanding where the benefits are truly in the long term and the short term, outweighing the negatives. Because in that case, yeah, sure, does someone need to actually physically measure something? No,
Right.
probably not. You can have a machine take an image of it doing it, and so you can get imperfections and probably having a much slower error rate than what you and I doing it. But do we know what to stop? Whether it's, I can measure it and I can weld it there, or I can measure it and I can cut it there. Well, after it's cut it, maybe deposit this part too. And eventually, you just do completely wipe out an entire factory floor.
Yeah, is it going to become
And maybe
completely
that's the
automated?
best too in certain, like, say, it's a very dangerous factory floor. It was killing people. Then again, I don't know, but it's one of those things like, where do we know when? And
That really is the question: is when do you stop? Who makes those decisions? And that is definitely where the problem with it comes in.
And then the last thing I'll say about the problems I have with it, because all I have is problems with
These
it.
problems are mild, I will say. Like
And
these are
so
really reasonable
Before we get to
problems.
the next one, I did toy with it a little bit about the next topic, but I also used it in another episode where I was trying to cut down on Echo 2. Just it was much better than anything I was able to do with all the filters, all the duals, the equalizer I had, and the editing software I used. It worked okay, but I threw it in AI and it was pretty damn impressive. But that's the only use I've had that I put as an image generator and the noise reduction stuff, but that's it.
And I realize I came on here trying to like demystify and say positive things about AI. I feel like
Positive things.
I feel like I've said, I don't know. What's your opinion? Do you feel like I've been positive, negative? I feel like I've given more.
A very good job being objective about it.
Okay.
I think you did a good job at demystifying it, but I think it's also been impressive that when you're in the field and using it in beneficial ways to people now who need it, you've been able to keep a very realistic sort of thing on, not say like this is like the magic pill, this is the silver bullet, because that doesn't exist realistically. No, I think you've done a really good job.
Yeah, I want people to know, I think at its essence, that it's not as outlandish as it seems, and that it's more accessible than maybe it comes across as being. And in my professional opinion, I don't think we're going to get to the point where they're sentient and everything, but maybe in 20 years we'll come back for another podcast and I'll be binding my words.
So again, where I come from too, I have like 4 pillars to this show, like memento mori, remember you must die, spend your time accordingly, in short. 2, I believe, is touch grass, go gym, stay in shape, go outside, that's good for you. 3 is like freedom greater than comfort, essentially. And I think you tie a third one to this in that don't become like a slave or dependent, like we said, on this thing, because it's going to bite you in the ass no matter what. Like, it might be inconvenient to type out, a paper. It might be inconvenient about certain things. And maybe it makes sense to use this thing, but don't become dependent on it to where, like, you cannot live without it and you cannot function without it. So I do vape. So I guess ChatGPT is just a breeze.
It's the breeze. Put that on a t-shirt.
I had a I was having a flash. Wasn't like another thought entered in my head there, but I'll try to go back to it later. In the 4th pillar, excuse me, beware the frailty of man, which is essentially like, we're people. We're not. Nobody is, all knowing. We're weak. We're emotional people. So, like, again, I mentioned the sucker's folly. Like, just be aware of that when going about this stuff. And so I won't ramble on about that. The other thought I had before I forget, I mentioned breeze. I don't know if anybody's been following it, but Jewel, the original, like big, big vape, if you will. they've been getting dragged through the legal mud
Why?
because they obviously were huge. They were massive. The government went after them for like advertising and marketing to children is what they were saying with their flavors.
Okay.
And I can't really deny that because you're making like lemonade or like bubblegum flavored, vapes.
Okay.
Sure, I get it. I don't know what other marketing practices into that. If it's just in their flavor, I don't really know if I buy that, but like I guess I can see the stretch. But like you look at the flavors Breeze has and their marketing and the way it's tropical and fun and everything versus how industrial like a Jewel looked. I can argue a Breeze looks way more trial friendly than Jewel ever did. The Jewel's paying hundreds, not millions or billions of dollars to sell all these suits in every fucking state.
I mean, it's because they were the first to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm saying it right now. Breeze is running because Jewel Walk is now getting dragged through the fucking mud. I was like, that's so not fair. I don't like them. Don't get me wrong. I don't like them, but like, there's no way that what Breeze is doing is completely fine.
Yeah.
If Jewel is dumping out billions of dollars in these lawsuits, only to having to completely rebrand and come out after they've sold in all 50 states, basically.
They were doing. Breeze did. I mean, like they came in.
I bet Breeze has some angel investors on the inside. I wouldn't be surprised. Because it makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
If I can pick up like a pina colada, or I guess maybe that's not technically catering to minors because you can't drink. But they still have like lemonade, but they have really fruity flavors. Like, I don't know. I read an article after that. I was like, that's fun. I hate it, but I'm like, this is not fair.
I hate both of you, but I hate one of you more than the other right now.
Either drag them both or drag none. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah. Anyways. Well, thank you for that.
Yes,
that was interesting.
Hopefully it was somewhat helpful.
It is a lot better than me just saying like, oh, it's fucked because from a bias perspective, I've already seen it act biased. And also now that, the government's leading the task force on control, we can all basically guarantee it's going to be a disaster. So that's basically the extent of my, viewpoint. Also, it's very good to get a different sort of stance on that.
I think it really is an incredible thing and again, this is not for me or the, other fellow data scientists to do. This is obviously more in government control. I think it's an incredible thing if it's managed well. And that's, of course, where the scary part of it comes into is what's too far. But just as a tool itself, I mean, it's so powerful and it's cool to use. And of course, plenty of aspects of it. I didn't really touch even on what I personally use it for. In my work.
Go through that. What do you?
Oh, I mean, I can. We don't have to get into the weeds with it.
So again, everyone's really only mostly familiar with image generators and language sort of models. So,
well, I just think that there are more fun sides to it that sometimes don't always get seen because they're not necessarily tied to like big, pharma, big data, stuff like that. So, I do a lot of human movement analysis. And if you've ever seen, any kind of movie, Lord of the Rings, you've seen when they do the markering of people, and then they balls. All the little balls. So that's called optical motion capture. It's something that's been used in the film industry for decades, and research has used it forever. And it's great. It's a really, really solid, well understood tool. Like how the error behind it's pretty low. But of course, with anything, there are limitations, and it would be much better if you could do those same things, but not have markers on somebody. And that is opening up the whole world of markerless motion capture. And that is all, machine learning and AI based. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking these videos or pictures of someone who, let's say they're swinging a baseball bat, you would typically have markers on them and you're tracking where they're moving in space. Markerless motion capture lets you do that without markers, right? So you're taking these videos, we label them. I'm really getting into the weeds here. I'm going off on a tangent, but my point being there are more, I think, exciting ways that it's being used that we don't really always see. So markerless stuff that I'm talking about, it's so cool because you could do that in any space, right? It doesn't have to be tied to the film industry or the research industry. It's being looked at a lot in hospitals, especially from a pediatric sense, because if you have children with conditions where they can't move very well, but you're trying to do some, rehabilitation with them, you don't necessarily want to be making them even more uncomfortable by putting these, markers all over their body. So if you can just let a child run free in a, controlled lab environment and target whatever rehab you're trying to do at no additional discomfort to the kid, that's the best case scenario. And so this whole world of machine learning in that sense, it's really translating out into sports. It's translating out into military performance. I've seen a few articles coming out recently. Just a lot of different sectors that I think they don't make the news, right? Because they're not as sexy and exciting, or they're just not as terrifying as some others might sound. These aren't, that has nothing to do with something becoming sentient, right, and taking over. And that's usually where the headline comes in. So
I'll let you know that the IRS has robots that can boot your door down instead of a real person.
Yeah. So I would say I feel like I'm really on the fun side of AI because I'm not on. I mean, some people might not find it fun, but yeah. And then a lot of the working with big data sets and data compression, that kind of stuff too.
So the motionless, the motionless capture sort of stuff, different. But did you see that there was? It said it was made with AI. Again, this is when AI first became big and it was on the news. So again, it very well may have just been a Photoshop and pitched as AI. But the picture of the Pentagon that was got popped recently.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It went it was a headline. It went viral. It was thrown out there, but it was completely fake.
That's a fantastic point of how are we going to get to a point where we can tell what's real and what's not? Yeah.
Photoshopped, honestly. But deepfakes.
Deepfakes.
I don't even know if those, because again, those really first got popular before people even talking about AI or GPT seriously. So I don't know if I'm sure AI was deploying those, the early ones. I mean, I know they're only getting better now because you can see people saying things with or without video. You can record, go with it, and it's pretty impressive. Some of our guys are hilarious.
Yeah.
But the ones with the president's gaming, it's so funny. But again, it all depends on who's using it, who's telling it what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. And I left what I do with it out of it until the end because I wanted everything we talked about to be as non-biased as possible. And I feel like I gave a pretty critical view on it. So, wait, going back though, the deepfake stuff, because now I can't stop thinking about it. That is just an unreal application of AI. And that's,
just unreal. It's fascinating.
Well, it's just, just watching it and seeing how that's even possible. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Working in the space, even sometimes I see things and I'm it's just, that doesn't make sense.
I think we're at the point now where it's not good enough to pass the trained eye, or I don't want to say younger, but I think more tuned into social media sort of demographic, really, where they're used to seeing, what isn't real. It's still, we can still decipher for the most part what is and what isn't. Obviously that has changed, I guess. And again, no reason to charge with it. It's gonna decide whether it's a good or bad thing, really. But yeah.
That's an interesting topic too then. It's what happens when we get to the generation that's never known anything but AI and filtered social media. Because right now we can still kind of parse out the difference between the two.
Different subject, but sort of same thing. We're seeing a generation that grew up with phones and social media. And we see the impact on just rates of people dating, people getting married, people having kids. All that's kind of gone down. I think that's a direct, again, no proof, no nothing, but it would stand to reason that people don't know how to communicate very like in person with each other as well.
Yeah.
Anymore. And there's a million other factors that play into that.
Right.
I do think social media and phones are the big driver. Because you do most of communicating that way,
Yeah.
watching videos, texting, and stuff like that. Like your need, I guess, if you will, whatever dopamine cycle you need to sort of like fulfill in your brain is sort of satisfied with time on your phone.
Yeah, everything is just these quick dopamine hits that don't really, I mean, maybe they do, but they don't really satisfy us in any meaningful way. It's just these quick, how can I interact?
I've talked about this too. I think it was when I went to dating apps. I can't remember. I think it must have been.
Sure.
Yeah, it was. As I was wrapping up my rant about dating apps, but porn too. I think porn fucked up a lot of dudes too.
Oh, yeah.
I think guys don't. I think the entire view of women has changed, but also I think that whole subconscious level too of like that whole psychological need, like that sex drive, it's satisfied completely in an artificial way.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to go through as a guy if I'm consuming that. I don't have to go through the whole process of going out to the bar, spending money, and face rejection. But I can just check the box like that.
Yeah.
That's a big one too with all communication aspects. I think with dudes that goes hand in hand.
Well, and it's really apparent as a female when someone.
This is good. I need a female perspective.
I mean, it's really, really obvious what expectations. I've got like a sip left. Yeah.
She's like, I'm not still listening to my laptop here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's really obvious where a guy has gotten his communication skills from.
Cool.
So whether he's, I would say, heavily on dating apps, and I don't want to generalize and be like, I can tell if this guy like watching porn, but so yeah.
This is good.
But I mean, these things are obvious, they're noticeable. If a guy is able to actually have conversation with you, maintain eye contact, ask you questions, all of those are signs that he's a little bit more tuned in to the real world. If he lives on dating apps, if he is constantly, and I don't want to say that these things are mutually exclusive, I'm just listing factors, but he's constantly on dating apps, constantly watching porn, constantly like Instagram model scrolling. That stuff is so obvious because it's like he doesn't know how to talk to a in-person, I don't want to say real, because of course these are real women as well, but an in-person real female.
Watch this, really? He's like an AI.
It is like an AI.
He's just pulling it from the inputs.
Yep. He's pulling it from the inputs and predicting that he thinks the output is going to be the, result of whatever porn or whatever he watched. Think it's going to work. And it's human sentiency. See, these AIs don't always work because women, maybe sometimes, in general, you're not going to respond to a guy being super aggressive, super pushy, very his needs only. And I think it's a little more obvious than people think. And I'm sure this goes both ways. I feel like you've talked about, maybe not on here, but your experience with dating apps, a lot of the astrology talk comes up, right? Like you can tell also, I'm sure, when you're talking to a girl where her communication skills come from and what kind of content she consumes.
I know what it's. I don't even know if it's that specific.
Right.
I think for me, I can tell very quickly based on your ability to like hold a conversation or ask questions. Sort of like what your North Star might be like in your life. I won't be able to point to what it is, but I can tell very quickly if you're trying to get to asking me what my birthday is. Like that's very apparent to me very quickly now, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like I can see it be like.
So you're asking for your birth certificate on a first date.
Don't yeah. Like it's just And at that point, it's not even so much like, yes, the fact that you do or a woman does like subscribe to that seriously, you know, like, and I just filmed an episode that's actually going to come out Sunday.
Okay.
This one is going to be the following week because I still got to edit it and publish it. So I already filmed it for this. This is me. Where I talked about like empowerment and everything, and one of the examples I use about like a false, you know, sort of image of empowerment or sort of like the false North Star that we follow today are people who subscribe to horoscopes or psychics and, you know, take their word as absolute truth, go about their day on the tracks that these sources lay that are extremely vague, inconsistent, and prey completely on the confirmation bias, only because, for the most part, you have a hard time or you just don't want to accept, you know, responsibility for the outcomes in your life, for your actions. It's much easier just to blame the star from the universe. And that sort of, I just went on a full.
No, I like it.
You can tell how much I love horoscopes. But that whole sort of lack of accountability and discipline, I find, you know, just completely unattractive, but also like, got a touch. It's like you're so completely disconnected from reality at that point that like this conversation, this is not real. Like, good luck.
Yeah, you have to understand that you are still responsible for your own actions, and you don't have to be controlled by these external factors that you think that you have to be controlled by. And honestly, I would tie religion into that same category a bit, right? Like just being blindly led and letting that justify your own decisions and almost using that as a blanket to hide behind things so you don't have to think about the alternative or you don't have to, you know, come up with a different opinion in those regards. Yeah, that to me all kind of falls, and I maybe don't want to put those two necessarily in the same category, but the dependency on them, I think, comes from a similar personality and similar mindset type.
I would absolutely agree. And one of the popes, it wasn't the latest one. I think it was John Paul II. Maybe he was somebody else, but I want to say it was there. He had a quote where it was like, religion works like a plane, or it should work like a plane with two wings. You have faith and reason. You can't operate without one or the other, basically. Like, just blind faith without reason would say, like, I can jump off the roof of this building, and since Jesus loved me, he's going to catch me. No, that's not how that works. Gravity's a real thing. Laws of physics are a real thing. So don't do that. You have free will at the end of the day. Don't do that. Reason is knowing that, like, yes, I could jump off this building, but there's like, God's not going to catch me. I have free will, but like, that's not the right thing to do. So I'm not going to do that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, God has his own way or whatever. So like, I think that's, I mean, that kind of goes back to my fourth one. We're not like, we're not smart. We're emotional people.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff is emotion. You know, we tie emotional sort of value and purpose to religion, to the stars, to whatever it is. And if that's done incorrectly, it's very easy to see, you know, the flaws in that. I've actually used those exact examples of making one thing and one thing only, you know, your personality. And like, you can tell very quickly that person has a one-track mind. They're incapable of like objective or rational thought, and they're never taken seriously.
Yeah.
And so but I think you're on. I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah.
I do think that for the most part, though, religions do have a net benefit. They typically extremist sort of sects of them all aside, all of them strive to teach people how to be good people, I think. So again, I think the religions themselves, and, you know, I think they generally strive to teach morals and, you know, people to be good people. I think the people to feel the problem.
Right. Yeah. People do what people do. Yeah. And I think in both regards, even if we're going to say for the horoscopes as well, like, people want something to believe in. Like, we want to know that there is a reason that why we're doing the things we're doing have value, have meaning. And if religion ties you to that, if a horoscope ties you to that, like, sure, let that be your thing. It's just that not letting it, like you said, become your one personality or justify bad decisions that you make. You can't turn those around and blame on those things. But yeah, I think it both, well, religion more so. I think the idea is some kind of a moral compass and however far you choose to go into your religion. And I will read horoscopes. I think they're sometimes funny to read, but I mean, I don't like.
Which I find so funny considering
I know.
what you do and how much smarter than everyone you are.
Okay, well, that's not. Thank you. That's not true. But I think it's fine. I mean, I've told you this before. I have a really really long distance best friend, and so her and I will read like our horoscopes.
But it's like a for
I'll
fun
say
thing.
it's a
too.
fun
not
thing.
like,
That's what I'm saying. It's like
I can
no,
have a good day.
no.
It's gonna be a bad day.
It's
Like,
funny because it will tell me like it honestly just makes up like funny stories
Sure.
more so. It'll be like you and her are feeling like the other day one of the prompts was like if you guys were Bonnie and Clyde and it gave us this thing about like who would be robbing the bank whatever. Like it's more so in the fun sense of that.
You're not
But yeah,
using it to
yeah,
Yeah.
using it to be like this is why I felt the way that I felt today. Or like waking up, checking it first thing, and being like, all right, well, my day's fucked now. Like that is where the problem with it is. If there's a way to use it and be like, I'm going to use this as like a general moral compass,
Yeah.
sure, let that be your moral compass, or just for fun. But I also think it's good sometimes too to have like brain dump things in your lives, like
absolutely.
junk food. And I feel I mean, I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone who's like horoscopes are really their thing, but I
don't
think it's
you have to worry about
like I think I'm okay. I think I'm in the right
You're
space
more than
here.
okay here.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. But I think that's kind of what I don't even want to say that's what it is for me because then I don't even want to make it sound like I like check it or like buy into it. But if my friend I was talking about and I are like reading those little funny stories, it's more of that type of thing. It's like I want to not think about the technical 9 to 5 that I do every day, and I want something that's just like silly.
If you made a
Yeah.
choice or a good comparison, it's kind of like junk food or like
Yeah.
I play video games every now and then.
Yeah.
Like it's not productive in any way. I'm not partaking in anything that's realistic or reasonable. It's just
Right.
for fun and waste of time.
Mhm.
I acknowledge that, but it's fun.
I agree. I want to take back everything I said that makes it seem fine. If it don't
you are
go.
more than fine. You are more than fine. Hey, speaking of things out of our control, though, I know I did
Yeah. Okay. Good.
have a lot of good stories, or at least you told me some that
Mhm.
very impressive about just sort of like paranormal sort of things, and actually the gut space and like paranormal occurrences go hand in hand, like fairly well actually. And some really good stories would come out of it. So there's like plenty of really solid accounts on YouTube, on Instagram that share a lot of these stories. I can through a lot of these stories. And everyone with a channel seems to have one themselves as well. But you don't want to talk to me. And so I'll just kind of share I only have like one real one, and it was like I wasn't even directly there for it was like the thing. I was there before and kind of checked everything out after. But the only experience I ever had, I was in high school at the time, and I had a little friend group I was running around with. We always hang out at my cousin's place because, no rules, do whatever you want. It was a fun place to hang out. Everyone loved going there. So one place she's driving, I forgot for what. No car, can't go out. Wow, yeah, I got
That was paranormal.
though. Yeah, that light just got very bright. These things they randomly the line up. There you go. She's got so no car, couldn't go out, but her parents left to go out to dinner, and so obviously everyone over there, like they went there. So we were pizzas. It was me, my two buddies, and one of her friends as well. So we all over there. Order pizzas, turn on a scary movie. I can't remember what the movie was. I don't know if it was SCP related or not, but I feel like it was. Again, this was back before maybe 2013, 2014, maybe. We're sitting there, we're watching. It's night. We're hanging out, watching the movie, and she was pretty dark. She had 2 chows maybe it was four dogs. We had 2 or 3 chows. And one
Sorry to interrupt. Are those really big? Like,
big fluffy.
yeah.
They're also similar to another dog called like a Eurasia or Eurasia chow, maybe the same thing. I don't know. She had 3 or 4 of those and Pomeranian. And all 3 or 4 dogs, I remember how many at the time. So I barking and like ran out the front door. They were like, "Oh fuck, parents came back early. Well, we gotta go." And so we all ran out the back door into the backyard and like waited, to make sure that like they were not to us or that maybe it was just all slide right or because it was just back and it was not dogs saw the squirrel around it or something. I don't know what. Go back inside, watch the movie again, and the way things are set up are, you just imagine sort of like a squarish shape over the northmost point of the room is where the TV was. The south had almost like the kitchen area, like an island. And to the east, there was almost like a round sort of like kitchen table carve out area. Windows, it's like a sort of like a lamp over the table where you would eat, and then a bunch of couches sort of in the middle that face the TV. We were all around the island. I was at the southmost point, sort of sitting on that couch next to the stove in the kitchen, so I could see everyone on the island, the TV, and like the kitchen and sort of table area and this little carve out in the room. And again, everyone's in front of my cousin, her friend, my 2 friends as well, the only people there. And I noticed the light that was over sort of like the kitchen table go out. I don't know if you look around. I'm like, I don't see that. Like, it could have been me, but I swear it was on, and then it wasn't.
Was it storming or anything?
So not yet. It never stormed. It only rained, but this was a little bit later. I wasn't ready at the time, and I swear it was on because all lights were on, and then many lights off at the time. And I was like, I swear you just saw it. No one else saw it, so I was like, it's fine, it's whatever. Couple minutes passed, dogs would go thing again, bark, run to the front of the house, and they're like, all right, back outside. At this point, it does start to drizzle, and I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of stupid. All clear, come back inside, continue watching the movie. 10 or so minutes pass again, dogs lose their shit, back to the front of the house, everyone back outside. Now it's like raining now, it's no longer drizzle, it's not storming, it's not pouring, but like, it's raining now. And at this point, I'm staying there. I got my cousin's friend, and I'm like, I'm going back to my other buddy's place, who was up the road we were originally. I was like, I'm not running back out of the rain. Let's go. We need to run upstairs. We was almost over anyway. So we hit back to my buddy's place, which is, again, maybe all of 5 minutes, up the road. Pull in. And as I put it in the park, my buddy's driveway, I get a phone call from one of my 2 friends were still there at the house with my cousin. She was moving. And I I'll never forget this. My buddy's trying to yell at me over what is the most alarming screams from the background from my cousin.
No.
Just screaming her head off as if she was shot. She's yelling, he's like, we're coming. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I waited 2 minutes, and this car was just peeling around the corner. And before he even put it in the park, the back door was open. My cousin is basically tugging and rolling out of the car and running into his parents' house to basically go up into his room and like enter into the fetal position, right? And she's crying. She's hysterical, absolutely hysterical. And we're inside now. My buddy's parents are like, is she like on something?
Yeah.
Like, just like, what's happening? And my buddy's trying to explain what's going on. And like, he said this like 3 different times. And I couldn't believe it every time he said it. And I made him repeat himself like 3 separate times. But essentially what happened was they went back and they watched the movie. Dogs did the thing again. They're like, it's raining. We've done so many times. It's fine. Bark. They didn't stop. They kept going. There's nothing there though. They don't go outside. They're just chilling there. And I guess, so I laid out the room, north of the TV, south of the kitchen, east is that sort of kitchen layout area. To the south, sort of west, I guess, if you will, sort of a little bit outside that general room, but they had like a walk-in sort of like pantry. It was a very nice house, but very large pantry, big door, many shelves, stocked. essentially, the way that he described it was like 3 shelves of this pantry just like cleared out into the kitchen, like completely flew outwards into the kitchen. I look at him, I'm like,
It's so full body chip.
I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, this just fucking happened. Like, are you sure something didn't fall?
Yeah.
Maybe one of the dogs hit something when they ran past it and it triggered a couple other things to fall. And he's like, dude, the stuff flew like several yards into the kitchen. Like 3 full shelves of food are out in the kitchen. I was like, okay. And as this time, we're like, his parents are hearing this. I'm hearing this. My buddy who was there too was saying like, that's what fucking happened.
Whoa, okay.
I'm like, okay. And as we're doing this naturally, because the parents are calling me, they're like, where the fuck is my dog? She's grounded. She's not here. And then they said, and what the fuck happened in the kitchen? And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. There's no way. And so I don't think, that they would have like framed it or messed it, but anyways, this is like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, there's no way they would have done this. There's no way. I've seen my cousin like joke around. I've seen my cousin play pranks. She's in a room upstairs by herself, like hugging her, like losing her shit, right? And so now I'm like, fuck. Okay, well, she's got to go home. I'm gonna take her home. But I'm gonna take her home. I'm gonna look at this for myself.
Yeah.
So like, we're going back. She's like, I'm not going back. I'm like, your parents are, we gotta go back. Your parents are pissed. Let's go. Get in the car, get back, and sure enough, like, it's out there. But there's a lot of food that made its way out of a pantry of great distance that it could have just fallen. It wasn't like candy, like bag stuff. Like it was, it was, yeah. And again, I don't believe that they did it. Nothing the game's really doing it, I guess, other than clout, which I know is a pretty good reason for most people.
But to put herself into that level of hysterics.
I've also heard some things too from her as well. I never witnessed these things that like, so dogs, stray dogs, would end up like locked in like rooms in the basement till status when she come home. But the door would have the dog be in the room.
Yeah.
I never witnessed that, but like she would say that, well before this used to happen. So I don't know. Again, I didn't witness this stuff. That is the closest I've ever been to something like that, though. The only other thing I can think of on this is just not paranormal at all, just weird, is that like when I'm in a state between like, if I'm not really, really tired, and in a state between like sleep and like awake for like too long, like really loud noises, I'll like yelling most frequently.
Really?
Yeah. Like I'll be completely like shaken out of like the in between by like a screaming, like a yell. And I've also learned that remember that one I was telling you the one story where I swear I was in the middle of sleep and I heard like a shotgun go off back in my head.
Yeah.
Apparently that's called like exploding head syndrome.
I was to say there's a name for that.
Yeah, I think that's similar to like the yell thing. I think I was in a weird state of sleep or in between that I didn't know of, and that just happened because like at 3-4 in the morning, I hear what sounds like a bomb going off right next to my head, like right outside my window. And now I'm outside of my underwear, like a gun, like looking around the parking lot, like my apartment. Like, what the fuck was that? That's not a train. There's no cars. There's no building. So that had happened. But like, again, that's just as close as I've ever been.
Okay. Well, for that first story, I mean, that's like more than closer. You were.
I didn't see it.
For sure.
Okay. I wasn't there.
That's fair, but that is.
I can only say what occurred. I witnessed after the fact.
Yeah.
Don't live in that house anymore, but
it wasn't
for that reason. Completely is the business related reason. Ended up, switching sort of thing, moved. So
I'm so interested about that waking up to yelling sound though. There's definitely a name for that. Isn't they?
That feels similar to like, in a similar sort of in between awake and asleep.
When you fall.
Yeah. I equated to that.
Well, that one's common, but I'd never heard the waking up to a yelling sound before.
Yeah. That I feel like it's the same thing as like the exploding head sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is just a hilarious name.
Wait, going back to the story with your cousin, where I know you said the dogs freaked out at one point, but where were the dogs when
For all I know,
everything got
they
there?
were
Like,
still at the front door. So
okay,
again,
I wondered if they
where
were found
again,
locked in a room or
I'll
something.
draw it out. So north TV, south the kitchen, east sort of like the kitchen table area, and then west southwest is where the pantry was.
Okay.
The hallway. So this is like towards like the back of the house. You'd have to go past the pantry to get to the hallway to the front door. So the dogs had to run past the pantry to get to the front door. That has to be barking every time.
Okay.
As if somebody were basically pulling it, she's going about pulling it. So they would have ran past us again. It just didn't, and actually before we jumped, since I was looking at my dishwasher was about to be,
It's gonna
so
be.
I'm not gonna let it jump. Really? That
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think that they knocked it over, but I was wondering because if she had said that they were found locked in rooms before, if they were found somewhere else in the house when that happened, but they were just they were still at the front door.
yeah, I don't get any color on that, but I think I would probably reason they're probably up by the front door.
That's so spooky.
Yeah. But yeah,
That would
that's the
terrify me, and
closest.
I would never be able to go in that
The
house.
only other, and I'm shocked I haven't had worse experiences because I went to a very old, like school, where there was an actual exorcist performed, like on the grounds of the fort was actually the school. It was something else. It was a very known fact that if you walk through this building where it was, the building was condemned during my time I was there. I had a crazy, like advanced chemistry teacher who actually, he was through a college, like a satellite campus, sort of just on our campus, basically on the side. You can get college credits, basically. So he took this class. Dude was crazy. Like mad scientist by wow. He was awesome, dude. He wore like the black sort of flat apron every day, Burks, or maybe a little.
Oh no! Don't do that.
Snow, Burks, the cargo pants, like gray hair, ponytail. He was the man. I love this guy. Condemned building was like, let's go walk through. Took the whole class through the condemned building, and we were on the second or the first floor, and he'd be like, pay attention to the room numbers. And look at the room numbers, as in whatever it was. It'd be like 9, 10, 11, 13. It was like, wonder where 12 is? And you'd hit the wall, and they basically plastered over the room where it happened. Yeah.
That's where the exorcism happened. Oh my god!
It's documented, and so the grounds of the school also is like a monastery, essentially. People could train priests. Priests are always on campus. It is a Catholic school, and so you have plenty of people to perform said thing there too. So they know in fact it happened. So there was actually 2 that happened on campus, but one in this building. And so after I graduated, actually, because that building was actually demolished for a new building to be put up for the school students later. So my rebellious ass was like, I need bricks for this building. I stole bricks
From
the condemned.
Oh my
where
god!
The exorcist happened. Didn't really think about it at the time, and they just kind of been sitting in the.
She still had these bricks.
Oh yeah,
Of course.
yeah. I had them for about a week, and then I was like, wait,
We shouldn't have these.
that was really fucking stupid.
This is
I
not
was like,
smart.
beyond the fact that like just taking that out is bad, but also like it's a demolition.
Yeah,
I don't
buildings.
think there's any problem with that, but like this is really fucking stupid. So I had a the cross that's used in exorcism, basically it's what I was still wearing. I basically had that on a chain. I was tight around the bag, and I just kept it in my closet, and I was like, that'll do.
That cross is doing everything it needs to do, and you can never take that off of this brick.
I took it off. I wear it every day. It's
the same one.
yeah,
Oh,
the bag's in my brother.
Oh,
my bag's in my
alright.
brother's room. And
Well, that's his problem now then.
So I mean, it's fine. Because that I'm pretty sure would expired by now, right?
I don't know that they have an expiration date.
Well, things
I don't
happen. So
think that it works that way, but
take it.
could be.
Maybe those are the demons, the cat seeds. when the cat's just staring
That's who
at the
she.
corner.
Yeah, that's who she's staring up into the corner.
Yeah.
That's who she's chasing after.
Mm. But yeah, knock on wood. I don't have any other.
I can't believe you have those bricks just in your closet.
Yeah.
That's actually insane.
A little compelled me to be like, yeah,
I need these.
take those bad boys with me.
I mean, that's very your personality, but they are, creepy bricks.
I don't even think that wasn't
No,
my
yeah.
intention at the time was to take paranormal bricks. It was just like, it was probably like a memento sort of thing. Like, I'm graduating,
Yeah.
take it. And I've never taken my bag.
Maybe keep them in there.
I don't think the Reebok backpack is what's keeping the powers of hell.
It could be. You don't know. Don't undo that Reebok's
I would
backpack.
nothing more than to be like, this is the strongest backpack on the earth that literally has duct tape holding the straps together. I think that would be incredible, but I just don't think that's the case.
It could be.
It could be sweet.
Little JanSport backpacks.
Literally like a bright blue Reebok backpack with like neon pink and rainbow duct tape.
Holding the demons of your Catholic school.
Yep. Yep. But I don't know, you got some real ones that you yourself have actually experienced.
Yeah, this is true. If I forget any that I told you already, you'll have to remind me. Because I don't know. I feel like I've just always been aware of weird things happening. And I don't know if it's from growing up in like an older home.
Well, those typically
Yeah, that's probably it.
Good catalyst.
Yeah, but I just feel like I always remember that kind of stuff happening. And I would say I've never been like fully closed to it, like I'm not out here like fucking with Ouija boards and stuff like that. I'm not going that far, but I do think it's reasonable that like sometimes weird shit's happening that you can't explain. Sure, I think that's fair. So I don't know if that's why I noticed it like more than my siblings even growing up. But yeah, I don't know. I moved into a new house when I was probably like 10. And I don't know if you know this, but it's actually the house that my mom grew up in. So it's an older house. Her, all of her siblings and her grew up there. Obviously moved out like when everyone was older. And then my parents bought the house back when we were older. And it had gone through remodel. So there were parts of the house that were new, parts that were still like the original like architecture. And there was this one part in a remodeled area. So it was now like a laundry room that leads out into just more of like a, I don't know, like casual like sitting room. And above it, kind of back behind where the washer like dryer are in the laundry room, there's this, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like a closed off space, almost like an old attic, but it didn't sit quite up as high as where an attic would be. And from my understanding, when they had the house, this used to just be like an open space that you could get up into, because I think this room wasn't closed off from my understanding. And I mean, just all the time, like you would hear stuff coming from this area of the house. Like I would be home alone with nothing on and hear like children laughing. Yeah. And granted, I grew up in a neighborhood where it would be very reasonable to hear children outside. However, my neighbor, like the kids were all pretty much my age. And it was that kind of muted, just like almost as if something's coming from the next room. Like not loud enough to where my neighbors are outside playing and it sounds like they're in my house, So
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. And I mean, this kind of stuff happened honestly my whole childhood in this house. Like just
You're surprisingly normal.
Well, it's to be tested still. But it would be little things like that would happen all the time, and like doors closing, right? Like slamming. Like I'd be downstairs, doors upstairs would close. And again, you can say it's an old drafty house.
Sure.
It's not that old. It's not that drafty. Like doors shouldn't just be slamming shut out of their own free will. Definitely also like hearing footsteps upstairs or hearing footsteps in a different room. And a lot of this would be when I was home alone. So for context, my siblings are a lot older than me. So I mean, we were definitely in this house together for a while, but it wasn't too long, I would say, before like they were moving out and going to college and stuff. And I was still a kid, right? So I was at the house. And if I would get home from school before my parents would get home from work, like this is when a lot of this stuff would happen. It would be when it was just me.
It's your girl.
I'm home, baby. I've got my SpongeBob mac and cheese. I'm ready to watch Law and Order SVU.
Normal mac and cheese.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely better. Like I've got my mac and cheese ready to watch a show. What do you have for me today? Yeah, and so that's what it would always be. And it'd be stuff like that, like hearing the footsteps, the doors closing. The laughter would make me leave the house. Like I would hear that and I'd be like, I have to go.
Yeah.
And I was always very open with my parents. Like I hear this stuff in the house and I think they just don't, because no one else ever heard it. Like it never happened to anyone else. They probably were just like, oh, she has a really active imagination, you know.
After a while, my imagination's a little too
For that many years, like my mom has a good sense of humor about it. Like she kind of just laughs, and I'm like, how are you still laughing this off? This shit's creepy.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Well, one of the more recent stories is, trust me, I hate it too. So my house is 2-storied. So downstairs, it's like our living room, dining room, kitchen, that laundry room that leads out into like another chill area. And then upstairs is all the bedrooms and there's another bathroom up there. And I think at this time of the day, like, I don't know, I think it was a weekend or something. So people were kind of coming and going. And for a little bit, it was just me and my mom in the house. I think my dad had gone out to work on some stuff. Siblings weren't home. I was just home for a visit. This was like a few months ago. I'm upstairs in one of the bedrooms, and this bedroom has a direct line of sight into the upstairs bathroom. So if you're in this bedroom, I mean, you can like tell if someone's in the bathroom. So my mom had been, kind of coming back and forth. We're talking, whatever. I'm cleaning up some stuff upstairs in the bedroom, and I thought my mom was downstairs. She had gone downstairs since she was going to go do some laundry, so I think she's down there. I very distinctly hear the water in the sink turn on in the upstairs bathroom and the unmistakable sound of somebody brushing their teeth. Like, you know, the sound when someone's brushing their teeth. It's very distinct. So water comes on, I hear teeth brushing, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, my mom's upstairs. That's fine. I have a question for her. So I turn to face the doorway of this bedroom that I'm in, look into the bathroom, and I go, hey, Mom, in that moment, sound goes away, water sound shuts off. No one's in this bathroom. My mom heard me say, like, hey, Mom, do you? So she's, starts to come from downstairs and she's like, hey, did you call me? I was like, were you upstairs just now? She goes, no, I've been down in the laundry room.
So you weren't brushing your teeth?
I said, so you weren't up here brushing your teeth? And she goes, she kind of laughed. She's like, no, I wasn't up there brushing my teeth. And I told her, and she's like, you just imagine the craziest things. How are you still? This is not imagined. There are ghosts in this house. But I have to say, they're friendly ghosts.
And they're hygienic.
They're hygienic. The things that they do, like, why the hell is this ghost brushing its teeth? But
there are worse things to do, I'll admit.
There are worse things to do. Something that creeps people out in the family a lot, and people will admit this one they can't explain. I have an old jewelry box of my grandmother's.
Yes, this one, yes.
And
I've witnessed this one myself, actually.
It's terrifying.
So I guess I did lie. I've witnessed maybe another thing.
Yeah. She just likes to play music from the music box sometimes.
It is the strangest thing. I didn't believe you until you were getting ready to change. Weren't touching the desk.
Nope.
Weren't near the desk. Didn't wind up the box. Didn't do anything. And
she just starts playing.
Yep.
It's really one of those things where I've tested it. Like, am I moving something in here? Am I hitting something? Am I turning this box on in some way? Am I wound it up? Not even. It's happened to me before where I've not even been in the room, and then I hear the music.
Yeah.
Go. Should I get rid of this thing? Yeah, but you've seen it. Like,
I've heard
yeah.
it myself. I was there. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was like, no fucking
Because
way.
it sounds ridiculous for someone to say, like, oh, my grandma's music box
It's,
goes off.
I can't even forget about that.
Yeah.
My brain probably repressed it,
It
honestly,
probably
because
did.
I could not believe it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, maybe you bump it or, but you didn't wind it up.
No.
It wasn't, it was just there. We were just staying there. Weren't even touching the dust. Hadn't touched the dust.
Yep. And the first few times it happened, I think that's when I chalked it up to, like, oh, I must be hitting the desk that it's on. I must be doing something. Should we wait for that?
No, I don't think there's a train going by. I don't
Okay.
think it's going to pick it up, but it should be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I just always chalked it up to that. Like, I'm doing something to set it off.
No.
And then I'm very glad you could witness and see it just goes off.
I only played a couple times that night.
Yeah.
So
It does. It's definitely played when I've been asleep before.
I would.
Oh.
The desk is going to have a couple holes.
Wanted to
It's
leave.
going to be doing that.
Wanted to leave the house.
My desk was playing music.
Mhm.
Wow, I bet he's just playing music. In the middle of the night.
I know.
Holes in it.
But surprisingly, I've never had any of the, like, drawers opening. I feel like
Good. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Count that as a win.
I can count that as a win. So it's weird stuff, but it's all minor for now. The one, I think I've told you this story too about the person.
This was less. This one gives me chills.
This
This one actually, genuinely, when you first told me it, this one actually, I had a physical reaction to this one.
Yeah.
Because what was it with the brain? You hear it,
Yes.
and you just, I'm getting my entire face. My face doesn't get chilled. My face actually just chilled this thing about this one. But when your brain with something, it takes it to the worst possible place. This is one of those things. I didn't want, I had it written down, but I didn't want to pull it out because I know it's but I know when you mentioned it, it wasn't like something that gets talked about a lot. So I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah, this one I don't talk about often.
Yeah.
Just because it was so traumatic. Like, and again, nothing, happened to me, but the whole thing, just looking back, is so terrifying. And it's made me afraid of the dark for years. I still am afraid of the dark.
The fucking dark.
I still cannot go to a house or to a building without, like, drive-by checking the side of it first.
This is a good practice.
Yeah, it's always a great safety tip. But this story scarred me. So
It scarred me. I just heard. I didn't even live through it.
tonight I'm going to be afraid of the dark again. So before we moved into the haunted house, I've told all the stories for.
More friendly haunted house.
We
shit.
used to live in a more friendly haunted house, and this one was more out in the country. We lived on a lot of land, like a lot of grass acreage, and then we had a bunch of fields around us. So yeah, just to kind of set the scene of what's around. So again, I was a bit younger. I was probably around 10 or so, because it was not long before we moved into the new house when this happened. And I mentioned earlier, my siblings are a bit older than me. So my brother, he can drive, and him and I had gone, we say, into town. Into town. It's like a tiny farming village. But anyways, we went into town and went to see a movie, come home and park in the garage. And then we have this long, almost like sidewalk lane kind of that wraps. So the garage was not connected to the house. And it was a somewhat decent walk, but it was all like on this paved, sidewalk. It wrapped around up to the front of the house. So my brother's a little bit behind me because he's getting some stuff out of the car. So I'm ahead of him. I'm walking up and I get almost to the front of the house. And there are these, it's just landscaping, like low bushes, kind of wrapping around, just like outside how houses normally have, like outside of your doors and stuff. So I'm getting close to the front door and not on the side of the door closest to me, but on the opposite. So house is to my left. Okay. I'm coming up to the door on the next side of where the door is. Sorry if this isn't making any sense.
No.
I see what I can tell is like a man walking towards me along the side of the house. I just see this all black shadow like snaking along the side of the house through it. So he's in between the house and the bushes, like truly like back pressed up against it, like snaking towards me.
Why did you get that detail the first time you told me?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean,
Very
this person,
interesting.
because there's not much space. Like, you know, when you have landscaping done against
yeah.
the side of a house, there's not much space for you to go through. So this person is very much like creeping their way, like up against the house coming towards me. And I, of course, I mean, I let out like a blood
As you
curdling
should,
scream.
yeah.
Yeah. And instantly my brother is behind me. So it wasn't my brother. That's always the first thing that people ask. Like, was your brother playing a trick on you? My brother's also the most protective person in the world. Like, he wouldn't even fathom playing a trick like that. So, I mean, within seconds, I hear him running up behind me, which was kind of the context I was trying to give. Like,
Yeah.
he's behind me. This person is in front of me. When I do that, obviously, then like my dad and my mom come running out of the house, and this person takes off through our yard and they run out into the field. And I would say from noticing them to like when I screamed was probably like you to me right now,
Holy
which is not,
maybe all 4 feet.
yeah,
feet.
not very far. Because it truly was like they were
Holy
coming up to
shit.
the edge where the door started, and I was coming up to the other edge where the door started. So
Oh boy.
terrifying. So then this person like takes off
Yeah.
through the bushes. They run out into the woods. My brother's right behind me. My dad comes out. Obviously, you know, we do what we should. Like my parents are searching the grounds, and police come out. There's no sign that anyone went into the field. There's no sign that anybody was in our yard. I mean, there was some sign, I think, of like maybe some, you know, like roughing up in the mulch area as well, but no signs of like distinguishable footprints, right? Like nothing could be,
Interesting.
yeah, like nothing could really be tested. I mean, it was obvious that like the area had been
Disturbed.
disturbed, but it wasn't like anything was really trackable. So nothing ever ended up coming of this. This one, like you said to preface, it's not paranormal. Like I really think that this was a person. It is just the most,
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
it's still to this day, like I can't think of that story very often. And I truly have to check the sides of buildings every time that I'm coming home from somewhere. Yeah. So maybe my little, you know, 10-year-old pea brain got traumatized from that. And then we moved into the new house, and all the ghosts were like, that one.
Oh, she can handle it.
She can handle this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shit. Yeah, that one really fucked me up too.
I know. That one's terrifying.
My mom tells like a story similar to that, where, yeah, living in, you know, a neighborhood, not
Mhm.
in the sticks, nowhere. Shared a room. She had 3 brothers at the time. I think she was the second oldest child out of the 4 siblings. She shared a room with her brothers. She's the only girl. Shared a room in this house with her brother. Kids, you know, growing up, and you know, it's in the summer. I don't know, they had AC, so the window open or whatever.
Oh,
Woke up with someone climbing into the window.
no.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you kidding me?
Nope. You woke up with someone like on a ladder, like climbing in through the window. Yell, scream, brother wakes up, dude runs. Nothing comes of it either.
That's
But like,
terrifying.
I had sleeping with the window open. That was good.
No, no windows open.
I was like, and you were just fine after that.
You just slept in that room again.
Kids though, man. Sometimes, you know, kids are resilient. They always say that. But I mean, that would fuck me
That's
up.
true, but that's a different level of resilience.
Yeah. That's like window next to your head, like you wake up and
I woke up to someone crawling into my window. I'm burning that house to the ground and we're moving. That just cannot happen.
I'd be able to almost, I could rationalize that though. Like your story too. It gives my chest.
Oh,
It
yes.
scares me.
Yeah.
I can rationalize that, and that I know that like it was somebody.
Yes.
It wasn't something outside of my
That you
understanding
can't explain.
that my brain's never going to be able to like reconcile with, that I'm just going to keep me up all night. I can recognize if it's somebody, and somebody is something that I can like adequately defend myself against.
Yeah.
It's something I don't understand. I can't put like a face to or like an entity to. The brain does, things.
You
It
think
does
that's really
react
result
kind of incredible.
to saying that these are friendly ghosts that I interact with? Because
It could be cope.
what am I like? What can I do
Yeah.
against them? Right? Is that it's my grandmother's music box, but is that her setting it off, or is it a more nefarious go? I don't know. I'm gonna choose to
I
believe it's
feel
the
like at
positive.
this point, the music box would take it a step further if it was something other than
Yeah, I think things would be happening.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. Like those are, while terrifying, those are physical things that you could defend yourself against.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can shoot a person. I can't shoot a ghost.
this is very true.
A ghost is going to ruin me financially because I'm going to leave a house and because I can't do anything about it. A person I can smoke and just be like, okay, that's done. Life, that's over. And still be ruined financially through the court system, but it's a different story.
Ghost is just gonna, haunt your life and
Yeah.
follow you everywhere.
Typically, I feel like I guess they do follow some people, but I think for the most part, they're typically bound to certain places.
Yeah, I think so too.
I just have a lot of interesting encounters with people.
Yeah. Me and me
You, yeah.
you specifically?
Yeah.
Do you have another one you're thinking of?
I mean, I could not tell you any of my friends who've had guns pulled on them.
Oh, well, I lived in a rough area for a while. Not even. That area was nice, but it was easily accessible to other rough areas
Sure.
in this major
Place
city.
those around here too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a little offshoot of a downtown of a major city. And unfortunately had a gun pulled on me there one night. I feel like any credibility I had in the beginning of these stories are just getting crazier and crazier.
None of these things couldn't control any of these things.
Mhm.
So
that was wild.
that is wild.
Say it so casually. Yeah, that was again one of those situations where I really don't know what I would have done differently looking back even. Like I was not going to interact with that man.
Yeah.
I could just tell he was violent. So like what was my outcome?
When you have like an individual who is like,
this was like a really escalated catcalling situation, just for some context, coming from a man in a car.
Downtown, I think you think about it, whenever there's like a typically homeless individual, like this person wasn't this, but like you get it a lot downtown here where it's like they go out of their way to get your attention and it's you can ignore them and that might make them even more angry and they'll become more confrontational, or you tell them no and the result's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
in certain cases there's nothing you can do.
That's kind of how I feel about this one. And it was just the timing that someone else, and it wasn't just someone else came down the road, a police officer happened to come down the road. So this man basically blocked me off. I was on the sidewalk. He blocked me off in a driveway and reached in his glove box and was reaching for a gun. And as soon as he did that, this isn't even it's a side street, but it's a busy side street. It's a main side street in this town that I was in. So I guess it could be expected that people would be coming up and down, but it was also somewhat late at night. So in my mind, I was like, I'm fucked. I have nothing. This is it. I have nothing that I can do here. And just in that moment, a cop turned down the road and came up, and then the guy sped away.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, out of all the times I've been downtown, knock on wood, of all the times my friends have been downtown, hasn't happened yet.
Well, fingers crossed it never happens again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we've been at this now
for
quite a while. I can't see the timestamp, but
we've been chatting.
Yeah, early gym day tomorrow.
Can't wait.
Yeah. What about advice? Any advice for the people out there? Doesn't have to be in the context of the episode. Everyone likes to sign off with dad advice or something. I don't want to take that though. I think
that's fair. I feel like this is pretty
I know. I feel like I really got to filter it down a little bit more.
No, you're good. I was gonna say, I feel like my advice is just how I live my life, which is just do what you want as long as it doesn't harm someone else, and that's it.
That's very good. I think we'll end on that. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Honored.
Next time you have more paranormal stories, or next time the next AI
So watch out to it over you.
report comes out, yeah, we'll circle back up for sure. This is good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you too. This was fun.